Oh, wow, that's it. We are live. And this is one of the great ones because talking about, some of the best LinkedIn creators in the world, there is one man that has inspired
Yeah.
me head and shoulders of the rest. He thinks I say this every time, but I don't. It's the one and only John Barrows. How are you, John?
Good, James. Appreciate you having me here. I don't know if I'm that important, but I appreciate it.
Well, man, I think we met once a long time ago at a Sales Loft conference in Atlanta.
Mm.
You were up on stage there. And I saw your energy in action, and I've obviously followed you today. So, for everybody that's wondering, this is a LinkedIn teardown. My name's James Ski. I'm the founder of Sales Confidence, and today our focus for the teardown is on John Barrows. And the point of this really is to help people improve their LinkedIn engagement and what's going on. And so, what we like to do is bring up our guest LinkedIn profile, learn about their journey, learn about their experiences, and learn about their opinion about what's happening on LinkedIn right now. So, John, before we get onto this,
Hmm.
can you just give us a little bit of a background story, the short version,
Hmm.
and tell us how you got to where you are in your profession and in your career, and then let's see how that matches up with your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, sure. So went down to Maryland, drank my University of Maryland, drank my way through 4 years of college, got my degree in marketing. Got out, didn't know really what I wanted to do, didn't love the roles in marketing. So got a kind of sales job with DeWalt Power Tools, which was cool because I was driving around. It was more event marketing. Graduated into sales a little bit there where you had to kind of work with Home Depot, then left that and started and worked at Xerox. And that's where I got my true sales education. So I sold copiers to the government, which was brutal. Did that for about a year and a half, but their sales training was off the charts. Then from there, I joined a company that my buddy had started from high school, and I was the VP of sales of a IT services company, self-funded, called Thrive Networks. Didn't know what I was doing, so took every training I could. Came across this group called Basho. Basho was the one that I loved because out of all the trainings, it was super tactical. So I used it, grew Thrive. We were the fastest growing company in Massachusetts, sold off to Staples. Staples fired me because I don't fit the corporate world quite. Well, they offered me another position. They fired me. And then Basho said, John, you want to be a trainer? And my answer was no, because I don't like trainers. Most of them are either failed sales professionals or professional presenters. But Basho had a unique approach where you had to use the technology, you had to use the training to train, right? So you had to find your own client. So I love that. Long story short there, I took on some of their bigger accounts, brought on some bigger ones, and then they screwed it up and I took it over. So went off on my own about 15 years ago with JB Sales. And now I work with, the Salesforces, the LinkedIn's, a lot of the tech SaaS companies out there that I train on prospecting, negotiations, all that fun stuff. But I still sell every day.
Yeah, and I hear you. And what I've seen from you and your philosophy, and I think this is why you've got this global reach, because to be honest, the closest I've had on this show so far is near 100,000, or you may have crossed it now, is Adam Robinson. And these are upcoming. You've been at this a decade plus.
Yeah, at least. No, 2003. 2003, man, is when I got on the platform.
Well, that is 20 years. I mean,
Mhm.
just like what, for those that don't know, like, the children out there, and
Mhm.
I don't know, how old are you, John, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm about to be 49 years old. So yeah.
Okay, well, congrats on that. You look great for it. I'm about to be 38, so you've got a few years on me. But for those that are much younger in their 20s,
Mhm.
starting out their sales career, what was LinkedIn 20 years ago and what wasn't it?
It was nothing. I mean, quite frankly, when I got invited I was member 36,142. So I was literally, at a billion people now. I was probably, and quite frankly, by the way, I found out through various means that the first 20,000 on the platform were just dummy accounts. So they faked them so that they could pretend like they actually had people on the platform. And I went out October 31st, 2003 is when I got invited. I actually just looked at it recently. And back then, I didn't even know what it was. But what was interesting, and this is it'll kind of evolve to this conversation here, which is, before LinkedIn happened, before I came out, we were at that, my company Thrive Networks, which is where I was when I got connected to LinkedIn. I was 23 years old. We had no marketing budget, no sales budget. We were self-funded. So I was the sales, marketing, and PR engine for the company. And, yeah, I had to cold call and do all that stuff. But for the most part, we got a ton of, meetings from referrals from partners that I would meet at networking events. And so I would go to, I belonged to 3 networking groups that met every single week at like 7 o'clock in the morning with a different group of people. So I would show up at, 6:30, I would network with those people, and then I would cold call all day. And then I would go to every single networking event I could possibly go to at night. And I'm talking like 4 or 5 a week, right? And this was before I had kids and all that stuff. And so, I was out there and I felt what it was like. So from a networking standpoint and a relationship development standpoint, I knew what it was like when I would go to an event and I would meet you, James, and I'd be like, "Hey, James, how's it going?" And I would immediately pitch you on my solution, on my, like, what I did. And I could feel your uncomfortableness. I could watch you look here instead of here. I could see how fast you were trying to get out of this conversation. And so I kind of realized very quickly, like, wait a minute, I can't just come in hard to everybody I meet here. I gotta slow roll this. I have to earn the right. I have to help other people out, quite frankly, before I could earn the right to ask for anything. And so when LinkedIn came out, it was just a nice digital extension of what I already knew how to do. And so I used it at first to be very, very tight with my network. Like, I would not let anybody in if I did not know you. But as soon as I knew you, as soon as I met you, I would connect with you. And it was a way for me to kind of keep track of you, and engage and make referrals and do things digitally that I was doing in person. And I think that's the challenge that I see today, quite frankly, is so many reps come from a virtual world that they go into school and whatever, and then they jump into a virtual sales world, and they jump into LinkedIn. And they treat LinkedIn like a sales, like a direct selling tool, as opposed to what I think it is a brand building, relationship building, and a networking tool. That's why we get all these stupid DMs from reps pitching their shit, or people jumping into a comment and clicking a link to their, to their solution. And it's like, dude, you haven't earned that right yet. Like, block, 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 delete, delete, spam, spam, spam. And so that's why I think so many people are struggling with it, because it's more of a long-term play. That's why, again, personal branding. The reason that most reps don't do personal branding and like share content, first of all, they have a hard time figuring out what to share. But second of all, there's almost zero short-term benefit to it. And so if you're not playing the long game, you play the short game, which is trying to blast out template emails to 1 million people that you're connected to, connect with as many people as you can, and spam them to death. And that's no different than spamming people on email. And so that's why I think the platform, in my opinion, is being misused by quite a few people right now.
I mean, I'm glad that we got you on here. Answer me this though, right? If you entered and started today on the LinkedIn platform,
Yep.
Would it even be possible to get 400,000 users in 20 minutes?
Well, that's not true. I'll take that back. There's a couple of well, I mean, I think it depends on what your role is and what your status is. I mean, obviously, the Snoops of the world, Snoop Dogg, can come in and get 1 billion followers. If you're a founder, like if you're founder-led sales, I think you can do it by telling your journey. There's a couple of them right now who are killing it on founder-led sales, who have only been on the platform a year or two and are already up over 100,000 people following them. The challenge is like, if you're a sales rep, like if you're a sales rep who is just starting your journey, the ability to get to that level, I mean, the amount of work that you would have to put in is relatively significant. But the numbers, I actually wish I didn't have 400,000. I really do. Right now, I have an admin right now. I am actively going through and disconnecting from a lot of people, because it's all about engagement. The way that LinkedIn's algorithm works is, when you post something, your 1x connections, right? Your one-time connections, it shares your post with your 1x connections. And if a certain percentage of your 1x connections start to engage with your post and like add comments, not just likes and comment, but like meaningful comments, if all of a sudden LinkedIn sees that a portion of your direct connections are engaging with your stuff, then it opens it up to everybody else and it lets it go big. but my numbers look great, but they're terrible, as a matter of fact, because you'll see some of my posts, I'll get, 50 comments, 100 comments, which looks great to some people, and some of them get very few, right? But say I get a post that gets 100 comments. Well, that sounds great to the average person, but not when you compare it up against 400,000 followers. Like if you take that percentage, it's actually miserable. And so I am actively going to cut those out. So to me, it's actually more about your niche and quality than it is quantity. I don't think anybody should aspire to get 100,000 connections or followers on LinkedIn, or 30,000 1x connections. I think you should focus on your niche, who your ICP is, who your personas are, and build your brand around that, and go for quality engagement versus quantity engagement.
So can I ask you, because this is part of the reason why I started this show, and I think why it's resonated with at least guests wanting to be on it, is LinkedIn upsets me right now.
Oh, it pisses me off. I'm not gonna lie. I'm on their LinkedIn insider team. It pisses me off. Their algorithm makes no sense. They promote in my opinion, they're getting closer to the TikToks of the world and that type of crap, as opposed to quality, and all the AI. Don't get me started on all the AI bullshit that's happening on this platform.
But what's the answer, John?
It's the answer. Well, what's the answer to what?
But what's the question? Answer? Well, the question is, how do we improve the LinkedIn experience for its users? And how do you get back to being about engagement around quality?
Look, I don't think there's. I think LinkedIn's going to do what LinkedIn's going to do. They have a monopoly on this space. They
always
are
have. Always have.
Always have. Always will.
Yeah.
But what they're facing is a very similar challenge to what I would say Google is facing right now with AI. Like Google's whole business is based on search and advertising, right? They were the #1 dominant search, and now everybody's going to AI to search for answers as opposed to Google. So Google is as behemoth as it is. I have a feeling that in the next probably 10 years, we're going to be looking back at Google and saying they're nothing. You know what I mean? They're literally, they're 86th in the sense that nobody's using them anymore because OpenAI and all these other platforms are LinkedIn, I think there's something out there that's going to disrupt LinkedIn. There is. It's just, what is it? And that's why you're seeing LinkedIn trying to, and I think it's an age component here. Because the younger generation, the only reason they're really on LinkedIn is to post their resume and try to get a job, right? Unless they're in the tech and the SaaS world and they're, trying to build their brand and that type of thing, which is such a small. I think the numbers on LinkedIn, it's like only like 2, 3, 4% of people actually create content. The rest are just voyeuristic and consuming content. So what you're seeing is LinkedIn shift to vertical format videos. Those, by the way, if anybody wants to get exposure, do vertical format videos. That's what LinkedIn loves right now, and it'll boost the shit out of it for you. So you're seeing them try to attract a younger demographic. And so I don't think there's anything that we're going to do to stop LinkedIn from going in the direction that both you and I don't love right now, right? So it's more about how we use LinkedIn than it is to what is LinkedIn doing. And it's stopping getting enamored with the engagement and the likes and the everything else. And it's going to be more about, like, again, going deep in your niche and connecting with people that feed, that you can use LinkedIn as a learning environment where my feed is only filled up with stuff that I care about paying attention to, and with people who I'm following, who I get value out of. And then my ICP and my personas, when I find content that is relevant, I'm tagging them specifically because I'm tracking exactly who my target accounts are. I'm tracking exactly who's posting stuff in my personas that are sharing information. And I'm engaging with those posts to earn the right to then reach out and prospect into them when the time is right. So I don't think there's a way that we're going to change it to get back to the glory days of LinkedIn, of what it was. And it was really high quality stuff, and people weren't posting stupid pictures of their dogs and their pets and their, all that crap. It's just going to happen. It's just how you leverage LinkedIn is the way that that you can play this game.
Makes a lot of sense. In fact, there was a post. It got no traction. I don't know nowadays if what post of mine's going to go and what's going to not. There's
no rhyme or reason to it.
It's crazy. But So I put out a post once that I thought was funny, got no traction, was like, I said, I'm going to set up a merchandise store where you can buy fake babies, fake dogs, fake beach backgrounds, because then people on LinkedIn could buy the merchandise to pretend like, unless you're getting married these days or you're
Right.
having a baby, you don't
Yep.
get any traction on LinkedIn. And I hate to say it for all those salespeople that close the deal of their lifetime. It's not the most enjoyable content.
No.
And it shouldn't really be on LinkedIn. And I hate to sound old.
Well, looks so yes, and like if it's a post about you closing your biggest deal, fine. Break down how you did it though. Like, don't just tell me you just closed the biggest deal of your life. Walk me through the process of you. I engaged, like I started here, I engaged this, I did this, I then went here, and this is what happened, and this is how I was able to get that biggest deal. If you can educate me on how, and that's why I tell reps all the time, forget telling me the result. Don't you dare tell me. I used to tell this to my team when I was, when I had some reps reporting to me, when they would post on LinkedIn, they would be, when they were younger, and they would be telling people like, this is what you need to do. Here's exactly how to make a cold call. Here's exactly how to deal with that objection. I'm like, don't stop it. Don't you dare tell people what they should be doing. Like, who are you? And by the way, that worked for you. That might not work for me. What you should say though, is what you tried and what was the result. So if you can explain your journey, people are way more interested in the journey and what you're learning than what the result was. And so if you could say, like, that's where Morgan Ingram, right? When the reason that he was one of the first SDRs to really be posting on LinkedIn, and that's how I ended up noticing him and hiring him for my team. And what he would do was he would consume content from everywhere. Like, he would read a book, he would do whatever. And then in the morning, he would basically say, hey, I just learned this technique. I just learned this approach, whatever it was. I'm going to try it out today. Right. And then he would do it that day. And then at the end of the day, he would do another video of, okay, I just tried this approach. This is what happened. It worked. It didn't work, whatever it is. I'm not saying you should do it. I'm just saying this is how it worked for me. And so he would just kind of try something and tell people how it worked. Try something and tell people how it worked. He exploded on LinkedIn because of that. And that's, to me, what I'm more interested. That's why you're seeing so many founders blow up when they do founder-led sales and they lean in on LinkedIn, because they're showing like, hey, I just pitched to 3 VCs and I got my ass handed to me because they told me my pitch deck was dog shit. Or, hey, I just did this thing and check out my CAC and how my CAC went from this to this and how it went from here. And it's like, whoa. Like, okay, now I'm learning a lot of stuff based on what other people are sharing about their journey, not them telling me how smart they are.
Interesting. So George Williams, thanks for posting a comment. He's come in as we're live. He said, when you're talking about earning the right to prospect, what does that look like to you? Directly sharing relevant content with you, tagging you in one that you think you're interested in, or providing good quality and relevant content for all? And what's the time frame?
It's a tough question because
it's a tough question. Sorry, I just want to. Yeah. I know you put the question to you, but it's just like what you have to pitch at some point, surely, JB. Like the market of people in market for what you do is only slim anyway.
Yeah, 5%, something like that. Yeah,
that's right. So you have to qualify out at some point. But when do you do it these days? If you're saying, well, it takes time and build a relationship. I've got a target to hit this month, man.
Sure. That's why there's short-term stuff and there's long-term stuff. The short-term stuff is when I say earn the right on a short-term stuff, this goes back to trigger events and doing my homework on you as a business and realizing that nobody gives a shit about me. They only care about them. And that's why sales reps it still blows me away when I get emails being like, look at how great our product is. These are the wonderful things that we can do. Let's be clear to everybody listening or who will listen to this. No one cares about how great your solution is, about how many stupid features and functions you have. They literally don't give a shit. As long as your product these days, your product has to do the basics. Like if it doesn't do table stakes stuff, don't even come into market. But as long as it does the basics, it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with them and their priorities, their challenges, things that are happening in their business. So if you want to do short-term stuff, it's try to find some trigger, you can, and this isn't just on LinkedIn, but you can actually do it now with LinkedIn Sales Navigator with Account IQ. If you go into account IQ or lead IQ, that's kind of, I forget what version of sales, LinkedIn Sales Navigator you have to have for that, but it extracts all the insights about the key initiatives, what their priorities are from a business standpoint, what are some of the things that those personas care about. So if you can find a trigger event that you can tie your solution to, and the basics are, merger and acquisition, opening up a new office, launching a new product, those type of things. And I can say, hey, James, I've been following you on LinkedIn for a while now, man. I noticed you recently posted about this recent product launch that you just pushed out there. I wanted to reach out to you because a lot of our clients leverage our solution this way who are going through product launches, and it helps them do this. And I thought it'd be worth a conversation. Like, if you want short-term stuff, that's still not going to drive a huge, from a cold outbound standpoint. But if you tie that to earning the right along the way, so that, James, now you fit my ideal customer profile. You're in there. Cool. I'm following you on LinkedIn. I'm maybe engaging with some of your posts and asking intelligent, thoughtful questions. I connect with you on LinkedIn without really sending a meeting invite because I saw that you did, something here. So actually, let me just do this. I'll walk you through my exact approach. I get 25 net new accounts once a quarter. Right. So 25 tier one, I break them up on my accounts, tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. Tier 1 are the great ones. Tier 2 are the average. Tier 3 are crap. And those characteristics are very simple. And all those characteristics, by the way, are in Sales Navigator in a saved list of mine. So I can go into my saved list, click on that, and say to everybody who fits this profile, see what's going on. So I got 25 of those accounts once a quarter. And I have 3 different personas that I go after. Right. So I do VPs of sales, CROs, and VPs of enablement. And so that's 25 accounts, 75 people once a quarter. And what I do is I go flush out all my search lists, right? So I set up saved lists. And that first day of that I get that new list, I go and I set up and I go follow all those 75 people and 25 accounts. And I go to see if I can, how active are they on LinkedIn? And if they're active on LinkedIn, probably only about half of them are really active on LinkedIn. And I try to go and engage in a post, maybe ask like a meaningful question or a meaningful comment. And as soon as I can do that, I then immediately connect with them on LinkedIn. And I do not personalize my connection. I just hit connect and I get a higher acceptance rate when I do that. Then after you and I are connected once, because I'm doing this because I need you and I to be one connected to be able to do what I'm about to share with you. After that, I go away. I go on your website. I do some research. I try to find a trigger event, maybe send an email, make a phone call or two, whatever. And then about the 5th or 6th touch, I come back on LinkedIn. And now that you and I are one connected, I do like a video, LinkedIn video in mail or a LinkedIn voicemail in mail, where it'll be ideally it's contextualized on LinkedIn. So it'd be something like this. Hey, James, you had posted something a couple of weeks back about, something that really caught my attention. And this phrase people can write down. As I learn more about your business, I actually noticed here on LinkedIn that you're hiring a whole bunch of SDRs. And I was just kind of curious how you're getting those SDRs ramped, because, our training really aligns with that. And we're working with a lot of other sales leaders like you to get those reps ramped and producing results immediately out of boot camp. And I'd love to see if you'd be open for a conversation about that, man. Let me know if you'd be open to a call. That process right there gives me about a 10% response rate across the board.
And look, JB, that's the gold that you keep giving. I could talk to you all day, but I'm just mindful of our conversation. Tell me succinctly, before we wrap up this conversation, and we're going to have to revisit this in a year's time, where do you want to be when it comes to LinkedIn this time next year?
I want to be down to, instead of 30,000 connections, I want to be down to less than 10,000 1X connections. I want to have my engagement rates up at a level that I feel is actually reasonable. Probably a much higher engagement rate than I'm at right now. And I'm not, and other than that, I don't going to change much, man. I don't play the algorithm game. I don't give a shit about I just try to put out good content that I think is valuable. And I ignore the trends, because if you're trying to play the trends, if you're trying to play the algorithm, it'll drive you nuts. If you just try to focus on putting quality, good content out there and share what you're learning to people and try to add as much value to the community as you can, you end up winning the long game. But, my game is the infinite game, not the finite game, man.
That's the quote of the century. The infinite game is the way to focus. And this has been a fantastic teardown. I like it. Simon Sinek. Okay, we'll quote that.
Read this book.
I haven't seen that one, actually. So it's the infinite game.
Yep.
So you've been listening to the LinkedIn Teardown. We'll put the links in the comments. Let me know who else you want to see in the show. John Barrows, it's been an absolute pleasure. Hold your fire.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.